You're listening to the Dare to Love podcast with your hosts, Sonika Tinker and Christian Peterson, founders of LoveWorks.
Hi, and welcome to the podcast, everyone. This is Christian Peterson speaking. I'll be your host today. Today is Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. And before I jump into talking about Valentine's Day on today's podcast, I want to tell you we got a little Valentine's gift for you. I'll tell you about that at the end of this podcast. It's a pretty short episode here, but we have a free communication gift for you that would be a great thing to give away and to participate in on this Valentine's Day. So check the details out on that in the description or at the end of the podcast here. I actually want to talk about Valentine's Day today because there are many different experiences one might have on this particular day. I'll share for myself that actually two things I'll share personally here before I jump in is one, I used to be someone who thought that Valentine's Day was nothing but a commercial scam to sell more flowers, cards, and bad quality chocolates. You know, I was kind of cynical about it. I'm from Denmark, in case you didn't know, and in Denmark, Valentine's Day is still a thing, but in my judgment, it's not nearly as big of a commercial event as it is in the U.S., where I now reside. So there's that. Now in my older days, I I have an easier relationship with it, and I'm not quite as let's say judgmental about it. And today is my wedding day. So Sonika and I got married on Valentine's Day 13 years ago. We actually had two wedding days. We got married on Valentine's Day, and then we did another wedding, like a big wedding, on Sonika's 50th birthday in September. So we kind of celebrate several of our anniversaries, but today is the first of our anniversaries. So if I didn't have any other good reasons to celebrate, which I totally do, then today would be a really good reason to celebrate. And I want to share actually a really sweet. Sonika and I, we exchanged some cards and wishes this morning and had a lovely breakfast together before we went on our separate ways. And Sonika gave me a card that I'm sure is written by some staff writer over at Hallmark, and it's really beautiful. So I want to read it to you as a way to start us off here. It says, "Over time, I've learned that love doesn't mean two people see each other as perfect. It doesn't mean that everything we say or do has to sound like it came out of a romance novel. Love means that two people like us, care about each other enough to blow off the small stuff because we realize our love is more important than all of that." And I just love that. You know, that just brought tears to my eyes to read that and getting it from my lover, of course. But what I want to add about it, and this is actually something we talk about at a different podcast, is the part about because we realize our love is more important than all that, is that when we do get hung up on having everything look perfect and we get into arguing about little stuff, it is often because we forget that there's a bigger picture. We forget that there's a bigger purpose, and we forget to connect to something that's more important than all the little stuff. So I think a day like Valentine's Day, a better way to look at that maybe than my my past cynical viewpoints on it, is that it's just another excuse or another reason to ramp up my awareness of how I express love. Because Valentine's Day, as we now see it, it's just a day to have elevated awareness and to maybe take a couple of extra steps to give love away. And we know, as you know, for those of you who know LoveWorks and LoveWorks for you, you know that we talk to many, many, many couples and singles and people who have been divorced and people who are newlyweds and everything in between, the whole spectrum of relationships, every month, every year. And many people have a hard time with Valentine's Day. Sometimes it's because we have such grand expectations, kind of like what this card said, that we have an expectation that it should come straight out of a rom-com or a romance novel. And that's just hard for any of us to live up to, to make enough festive gestures for a perfect picture to be satisfied. And then there are people who don't have a partner right now to share it with. And often a day like Valentine's Day, it presences the lack of a lover more than the opportunity to share love. We actually had a really inspiring conversation with a woman who was in our mastery program who went through a recent breakup, and she was just sharing her experience of the upcoming Valentine's Day with a group of us in our program. And she was just being vulnerable and first sharing her tears and her grief about her recent breakup and that she didn't have her partner to share this with. And, she just moved right through the tears, shared that with us. And then she said, and I'm totally going to make sure I take care of myself and nourish myself on this day. So she had set up a haircut appointment. She'd set up a massage for herself. She was going to go dancing with some friends and make sure she had a place to nourish herself to both receive love and share love. And that was just inspiring to me, that even though it was a day that also reminded her of a sad event, she just proactively turned it around and said, this is a day where I'm going to have some heightened awareness about nourishing myself and about sharing love with people around me, my friends, people I work with, and the other people who show up to the dance, perhaps. I know Sonika just went off to play volleyball with a group of friends, and she brought a bunch of chocolate kisses. It's just going with using it as an excuse to express love a little extra. I myself, when I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to sit down and write a little message to a man I noticed, and I've been thinking about. We did a men's weekend recently together, and he just really showed up beautifully, and I'm going to tell him that. You might have heard us talk about in the past that often how we end up feeling not loved and not given to is not just because our partners or lack of partners aren't giving us the affection and love we want. If you're following our podcast, you'll remember I recently shared a story on another episode about a man I was coaching, who was talking about how he feels, depleted and empty because his wife doesn't love him the same anymore. They're moving toward a divorce. He doesn't receive the affection and words of affirmation and sex and touch that he used to, and he's feeling really empty and depleted and sad about it. And my conversation with him was, well, perhaps your feeling of sadness and depletion and emptiness is just as much because you have no place to give your love away. Because we have so much love in our hearts. Us humans, this is our point of view, at least us humans are lovers. We have so much care and love and affection to share with people. Granted, we all do it in our own ways, but we all have so much care to share. And if we don't have an outlet for it, if there's no one to share it with, then it's like it gets stuck in our chest and we get crusty and brittle and touchy, and our fuses get shorter, and often we get caught by thinking that it's because nobody is loving us enough, whereas in reality it's often because we don't have a place to give our love. So that being said, we just think Valentine's Day is such a great opportunity to go love on people, and whether that's your wife or husband of many years, or your longtime boyfriend, girlfriend, or a partner, or the person you're going out on a date with tonight, or the people on your volleyball team, or the people you're going to go dancing with later tonight, or somebody you meet at the grocery store. You feel better when you give love away. We share a quote in one of our workshops where we talk about that love is interest. It is often assumed that the opposite of love is hate, but the opposite of love is disinterest. And that in that way, we could define love as being interested. Unconditional love is like having unconditional, all-consuming interest for another. Because the thing is, giving interest to someone has you love them more. When I give my attention and interest to someone, it makes me love them more. They might love me back too. Great. That's kind of gravy. But my giving of interest and appreciation and attention, it has me love them more. So I have an outlet for all this love I have in my heart, and I feel good. I feel love when I do that. And so that being said, Whatever you do today, it's our sincere recommendation that you just find ways to express your love. It doesn't have to look like it came out of a romance novel, although if you can set that up, more power to you. By all means, go for it. It's definitely not to say you shouldn't make a splash out of it, but that's not the main point. The main point is that you find ways to connect. For those of you who are married or in a relationship with someone, it is really important that you just find some way to send the message to your partner that you are special to me. I see you. You matter to me. I value our relationship. I'm not taking what we have for granted. It is special to me. You are special to me. And there are so many ways you could do that. I printed out my own kind of card this morning. Sonika bought one that had this beautiful verse on it. We're going to go have a comedy show. We're going to go support some other people. But, you can just stop your partner for a moment before, when you come home from work or before you go off to work, and just look each other in the eyes and say, I love you. I value you. You mean the world to me. And you just pause for an extra 30 seconds and look in each other's eyes without saying anything perhaps, and just holding each other's hands to send the message that you matter to me. I value what we have created together. Thank you for being in my life. Any way you can do that is a good thing. And, beyond that, everything we add is gravy. All the dinners and cards and chocolates and comedy shows and dances and weekend getaways, those are awesome. Those are gravy that all help to communicate the message. But for those of you who've ever been to one of our workshops, we have a distinction between, we say there are layers to wants. And the topmost superficial layer to a want we call the form of something. And there's progressively deeper levels of our wants until we reach the very bottom, the very core level, which we call just experience for short. And when like the card I was referring to that says, it doesn't have to look like it came out of a romance novel. That's when we can get stuck on our expressions of love, or the expression my partner has to me. I expect it to look like it came out of a romance novel. I get stuck on the form of my desire. And it's really useful to notice for myself, well, I'm wanting someone to, to rent a limousine and come pick me up and swoon me away, and for us to jump on a private jet and go to the Bahamas for a weekend. Okay, that sounds great, but why do I want that? How will I feel? How would I feel if that were to happen? Oh man, I just feel so loved and appreciated and seen. Really, that's what I'm going for. A feeling of love and being appreciated and seen. How else could we create that? Once you approach it from that point of view, there is a gazillion ways I could feel loved, appreciated, and seen. And there is a gazillion ways I could make you my partner, my friend, whoever it is I interact with. There's a gazillion ways I could help you feel loved, appreciated, and seen. So that is I think that's all I got for today. I just wanted to send that message to all of us to use this as a day of heightened awareness of where do I give love away? Where can I make someone feel loved, seen, and appreciated? And in my judgment, if I can do that, it's been a great Valentine's Day. Hey, last thing, we have a Valentine's Day gift for you. I forgot to mention that up front, but I'll tell you now. We have a free gift that we'd like to share with everyone on our podcast. As a thanks for listening and to help you get to a place where it's easier to share and to communicate. So we have made up what we call a communication challenge. And it's a 7-day free fun little challenge. All you need is 5 minutes a day for 7 days. Every morning for 7 days, you get an email that gives you a challenge, a communication challenge to try out that day. It's easy to do, it's fun to do, and it's made to support you to, take little risks, connect a little deeper in ways that you might not otherwise. And it could really seriously up-level your communication with very little effort on your part. So if you're interested in taking our communication challenge, you can go check it out on loveworksforyou.com/communication-challenge. I will put the link in the description to this podcast so you can easily find it. But we hope you'll join us for the communication challenge, because that could really up your connection, romance, and communication. So we'll look forward to seeing you over there. And if not, we'll see you next time. Have a great Valentine's Day, everybody.
You've been listening to the Dare to Love podcast with your host, Sonika Tinker and Christian Peterson, founders of LoveWorks. If you found this valuable, please hit the share button and share with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or your other favorite hangouts. You can find more about Sonika and Christian's work at loveworksforyou.com.